In Palworld, breeding exists to get new species of pals as well as to pass down traits. I've done an excessive amount of testing between different types of parents to find the most efficient way to pass down traits. Like, did you know that it's more efficient to have 2 traits on one parent and 2 traits on the other instead of 3 in 1? Or did you know that if you were to have 2 parents with the same trait, that does not increase the likelihood that the offspring will? If you didn't know these things, you should probably watch this video. I'll admit all the things that I said in the beginning I didn't know before I started doing this testing either. There are multiple publications that claim that is a complete guide on breeding, and unless the article is thousands of pages long or multiple hours long, none of them is ever going to be a complete guide on breeding because, well, it's not efficient. I would like to direct your attention to this. This is called the Palworld Breeding Combinations and Calculator. It's a document that was floating around with a Google Sheets link around release weekend, released by someone who understood the code of the game far better than I did to be able to come up with exactly what parents would produce exactly what offspring. And while this document itself is almost completely irrelevant because it's incorporated into online websites, there are a few takeaways that I would like to explain how breeding works in this game. Every pal is assigned a power value, with the highest power value being the least powerful, as Chickpea at 1500, and the lowest power value being the most powerful, being Blazemahut at a 10. If you were to take any 2 species and combine their values, like a Hangyu at 1420 and a Mozzarina at the power of 910, add 1, you get a value of 2,331. Take that number, divide it by 2, and our number is 1,165.5. Round down to the nearest whole number, so just get rid of the 0.5 at the end. That 1165, the closest number is going to be Wixen. If it's a tie between 2 different numbers, then the game uses its internal index system to choose which one it's going to be. But how it comes up with these calculations isn't the most necessary information, as if you were to go to websites like palworld.gg, if you were to just type in any 2 pals that you want, you're going to be getting the result. Or you could just find whatever parent you want and which 2 are going to be producing that result. There is a unique bit of information though, as this document also provides you a list of breeding combinations that are unique, meaning that the only way for you to go ahead and get yourself a Jolthog Christ is to breed a Jolthog with a Pengullet. You're going to find this very common for the betas, meaning the different elements of specific pals, as well as the pals that are used by the tower bosses. All this information is included on the Palworld.gg website. This is just a nice, concise list of it. If you want to screenshot this and crop my face out, there you go. All this information was compiled by Reddit user BlaAble on Reddit, an article called All Breeding Combinations Data Mined, if you want to look up that information yourself. Austin, stop with all your boring numbers. I want some actual information on breeding. Okay, fine, no problem. First of all, we're going to do a very quick summary of cake in less than 60 seconds, just in case you already know about that cake. Go get yourself a bee guard for honey, go get yourself a mozzarina for milk, and go get yourself a chickpea. That's 3 of the 5 ingredients. Make yourself some wheat, make yourself some berries, grind down the wheat to flour, cook it all at a cooking pot or later to make yourself cake. Make sure your pal who's assigned to working the furnace isn't staying on top of a tree instead of actually doing his damn job, Blazemahut. And if they happen to pathfind their way over to where they're supposed to be cooking, and they also, don't glitch out, then great. Then great, you're gonna make yourself cake. Oh, he's waiting to cook. Where's my electrical guy? You're generating electricity. From over there. It's pretty impressive. There are a few reasons you actually want to breed something, but it all comes down to 2 main questions. 1, is it just to unlock different pals? Or 2, is it to pass down specific traits to specific pals? So say for example, you watched my best mounts video and instead of going with the Bolton that I mentioned before, instead you want to go with a Fenglope because you can jump really high and that totally makes it necessary to also have a flying pal with you. I know, it's awesome, right? Well, the only way to get one who's actually this fast and absolutely reckless as far as how he moves has to do with the traits that pal has. This one has Nimble, Runner, Swift, and Legendary. All of the passive skills are going to be stacking on top of each other, and the skill Legend is one that you have to pass down from a legendary pal you caught in the wild probably high level 40s. So how you should use this website is come on here, see, okay, I want a Fenglope. Who can I breed down to make myself a Fenglope? And none of the 4 legendary pals are even listed here, so you're gonna have to make yourself an intermediate pal. So the best flow of this is seeing what pals you have and what other traits you want to pass down. I have a male jet dragon who's an alpha with legend. I have a Kelpsie Ignis over here who's a female who's a runner, and I have a Cryonolix who's a female with swift. And if we look up jet dragon plus Kelpsie Ignis, we get Univolt. We go back to the child side, we look up Univolt to see if Univolt can breed with something in order to make ourselves a Fenglope, and yes, Univolt breeding with a Kelpsie, Kelpsie Ignis, Calamari, or Floppy will get us a Fenglope. Great. If you look through your pals, you should be able to find different partners that are going to eventually make the pal that you want. There are 2 different ways to go about this, the less efficient way and the more efficient way. And the difference is about a 13% loss in efficiency, meaning that you're gonna have to make 13% more wheat, berries, eggs, cake, 13% more of your time. Right over here, I have a male Fenglope with runner, legend, and swift. And I have this female over here that has legend, runner, nimble, and positive thinker. Now, we don't really need positive thinker, but these were just the 2 that were compatible. Now, let me lay some knowledge on you. The fact that both of these Fenglope have legend and runner does not increase the likelihood that those 2 traits will pass down. Until my testing today, I thought it worked like a Punnett square. It doesn't. It basically looks at what traits are present and each individual parent how many traits there are. The optimal number is 2 traits. If a parent has 2 traits, they are more likely to pass down both of them. If they have more than 2 traits, it's less likely that it is going to be passed down. So from this female, if all you wanted was nimble, you're going to be getting so many breed jacks that are not going to have nimble, that are going to have positive thinker, and are not going to have both legend and runner and swift from the father. Instead, the more optimal way and the best offspring that you should be looking for is this Fenglope right here with nimble and legend, and this Fenglope right here with swift and runner. 2 parents with 2 different traits each is significantly more likely to pass down that genetic information to its offspring. If you have additional unwanted traits there, your number 1 priority should be getting those out of the gene pool so they are less likely to show up. And you're far better off having a 2 and 2 than a 1 and 3. You're more likely to get the actual pal that you want, like this Fenglope with all 4 desired traits. Now you might say, Austin, I've never heard this before. Show me your math. Okay, no problem. I use these 2 parents of Chickpea, Artisan and Nimble, and a Workaholic. I then bred 116 different Chickpea. I'm going through different pages. Look at the little thing up here. And I tracked every single trait that was passed down to the offspring. This was after I already did this entire Fenglope test wrong, which is the reason I deleted 4 hours of footage today, did this test twice, and came up with this information. One of them had Swift, Legend, and Runner, and the other had Swift and Nimble. And I thought, well, if both of them have Swift, it's more likely to pass down, and that was incorrect. The amount of times that Swift was passed down to the offspring was 58% of the time. The times that the traits Legend and Runner was passed down to the offspring was 54 and 58% of the time. Okay, and then the amount of time that Nimble was passed down to the offspring was 68% of the time. So the one parent who had Swift and Nimble passed down Nimble 2/3 of the time and Swift half of the time. The parent who had Swift, Legend, and Runner also passed down Swift half of the time, Legend half of the time, and Runner half of the time. So that's the reason I did this test with the Chickpea. One parent had Workaholic and one parent had Artisan and Nimble. I then bred them 116 times, as you can see across the top over here. Those different color codes are for the pages, rows, and number that they were. Every time that you see all of these gold and gray traits at the top, that's every time it was passed down. And every time that you see the gold, gray, and red traits down here, those are the random mutations of traits that just showed up one day. I, of course, removed the non-random mutation traits, like all of the legendary traits and lucky and things like that. In my Chickpea test, I had random negative mutations show up 13% of the time. In my Fenglope test, I had random negative mutations show up 14% of the time. My Fenglope was a sample size of 50, and my chickpea was a sample size of 116. I had a random gray trait show up with the chickpea 68% of the time, and I had a random gray trait show up with the fenglope 47% of the time. I had a random gold trait show up on the fenglope 20% of the time, and I had a random gold trait show up on the chickpea 19% of the time. Now, the discrepancy between these two is massive when you look at the neutral stats. And that has to do with the fact that one of these parents only had one trait and the other parent had two traits. The one parent with workaholic passed that information down 58% of the time. And the one parent who had artisan and nimble passed both of those traits down 67 and 62% of the time. If you have one parent who has two traits, there is a 2/3 chance that that information will be passed down to the offspring. If you have a parent with one trait, there is a 50% chance that that information will be passed down to the offspring. Random number here, that's somewhere about 15%, that an additional random mutation trait, a gray one, is just going to happen. That's in addition to the 20% random mutation trait for a gold trait and the about 13% chance mutation for a negative trait. So by far the most efficient way for you to get the exact pal that you want is one with two traits and one with two traits, and make them make babies. This is the information that I'm presenting and my overall idea on the best way to get the pals that you want. Save yourself time, be as efficient as possible, use the Palworld.gg calculator for the exact parents and offspring that you want, and keep your gene pools limited as possible. 2 traits per parent for the offspring. Once you're at the point that you have 2 parents with all of the perfect traits, yeah, make them breed, because why not? Now, if you'd excuse me, I have to go clear out 4 pages of chickpea so that I could actually start catching pals again. Following this, you're going to be able to get yourself a fenglope who could jump super duper high and go super duper far and super fast. And that's all I got to say about that. Guys, thank you so much for being here. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button down below. While this channel still isn't even monetized yet, apparently it takes a while for them to see how many hours that people have watched the videos. So I don't make money on this video. So just do me a favor, just hit the subscribe button for doing all this math and information. And I'm volunteering my time and doing it for free. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, Austin John Gaming out.